Holy cow! I forgot what I was supposed to be doing.
Oh,
I did that at the beginning too. Oh, it's a Friday night, but tonight I am me and Sue is thee.
see, I'm
So we got
back.
yeah, we got all that stuff figured out earlier today.
No more
So,
twinsies.
huh?
No more twinsies. No more
No, we're not
Michaelis.
no more twins unless um one of us steals the other's picture or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, we'd have to do something silly like that. So,
I know. I had to search for. I'm like, what do I want? It put me in Nick up.
that's a good one though. Hey, Grace,
That was our family pictures we did years ago.
was it?
Yeah,
Yeah, you
you
had
did.
short hair. Hey, Moby.
I did. I've gone through so much. Now my hair's just straight and flat
Oh God, mine is straight and fuzzy right now. But
and
anyway,
turning gray.
oh yeah, well mine is too. But every once in a while, I get a mane thing up my tail and dye it back to the original color. But then
I
the gray comes back.
I first
So
colored my hair. I don't know, 24 years ago.
yeah,
My neighbor, she moved in a year after I did, and she was a hairdresser, and she opened a shop. And I had never colored my hair before, and
well,
so yeah, I started coloring my hair. I had
did you?
very many hairstyles in those 24 years, and so then once um, I lost all my hair from chemo, I said I am not going to color it at all. When it grows back, it's just going to grow back. Whatever it grows back.
Yeah.
So it came back a little bit darker than normal. I'm more of a dishwater blonde,
Uh huh.
and it came back a little bit more brownish.
Yeah.
But now it's just so boy.
Like, like my medium, my natural hair color is like a medium brown with like
Uh-huh.
some natural highlights in it. You know, a shade lighter or whatever. So I was just I've always had that. Plus, I used to stay out in the sun all the time, and I
Right.
used to use that damn sun in
Oh,
stuff.
I know. I
So
remember using
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. Um, so before we get started tonight, and I know everybody's not here yet, but so there's some disclaimers that we need to put out there. Like number one, if you are younger than the age of 18, this is not a stream for you. Okay, there's going to be some pretty graphic content, and we'll throw up the trigger warnings and stuff. But some of the stuff that I'm gonna share tonight, is just not for squeamish or well, I mean, it's not like a horror film or nothing like that. Okay, so um, but if you don't like to see, and everybody has seen what happened when JFK was, assassinated. Um, this one is just the details a lot better on it, if you will. And then the second thing is, well, that is the second thing. You can't be, if you're younger than 18, you need to leave. And then we will have the trigger warning scrolling across here. So um, that's all of that said, real quick. Um, oh, yeah, it's a very sensitive topic, Moby. Yeah, you need the trigger warnings. Um, I thought we'd wait and just see, if anybody else showed up. If not, then we can start talking about it. Mo is our resident expert on all this stuff, Mo B. So she has thrown a lot of ideas into my head over the past month. And so now we're running with them. Like we're doing this one, the part two of this tonight, which, there's other aspects of JFK and the assassination and other people that died or were murdered or a combination thereof um, that we're going to talk about too. But we're going to do some stuff on 9/11 on uh, next week. I think Sunday we'll have some kind of game, and then next week we're going to start that stuff, and then we'll circle back to this. So, oh yeah, Yeah, that's true, Moby. She has really, really dug into this top. That looks cool as heck, all that green on there, don't it? That is pretty cool. Um,
It's Seahawk green.
yeah, it's so pretty.
It's our action green.
If your color picture there, your avatar picture there was in color, I bet that would be on that jersey, wouldn't it?
Um, a
Or is
little
it?
bit. That's more of their. Actually, the jersey is blue.
Oh, okay.
There's a little bit of green, but we do have jersey that is that color. It's
That's such a
called
pretty
so
color.
it's called their action green, and
Okay.
so I don't like it all together when they wear the pants and the jersey
Yeah,
because
it needs to be broke up.
it's too much green. But when they wear the blue and gray with a little bit of green and the green pants, I love it. It's so cool.
Mm, I bet. I, I, all I know is Alabama's travel stuff and their at home stuff. So I don't know all. I know what they wear.
Yeah.
So I think what we'll do is this first. Oh, and let me say this too. If we get struck or taken down, like right in the middle of the stream, that just means that I got in trouble for doing this, okay? Because what we're going to be talking about tonight are these Zapruder files. And I think that this is a very heavily debated thing. Of course, the people that believe everything as the way it was reported to the American public when all this was going on, they totally do not agree with the Zapruder stuff. Um, so, you know, if we get taken down, that's why. And I think actually Moby was telling me today that like when it comes to JFK, that like NBC owns all of that stuff about JFK except for the rights to this Zapruder stuff. Is that correct, Moby? I'm pretty sure that's what she told me today. So anyway, that's what are going to be talking about tonight. So this first one I'm going to show you is it's really really detailed. Okay, she said, yeah, it's very detailed, and like I said, if you don't want to watch it, then don't. But Sue, if you'll tell me when I get to, oh crap, I'm not sure which one it is. Uh, okay, this one's it. If you'll let me know when y'all can see it.
Okay.
You can see it?
Not yet.
Okay.
Okay. Now I can see it.
Okay. Here we go. There's no sound to it, so I don't know if they had to take the sound out of it or what, but I'll hush so y'all can watch it. Yeah. And that's that one. So the things that I really took away from this were number one, I believe that the library was like back behind them just right as they passed. So, and everybody knows that in that library is where Lee Harvey Oswald was. Okay. If you noticed on that film, it was like he got shot from the front and, his head went backwards. Not from the side, from the front, and then it just ripped all that open. So that was the first thing I took away from it. And then the second thing was when Moby told me that one guy, the Secret Service agent, goes up on the back, right? Where there had been one riding on the that had jumped off. So that's just.
So Oswald was in the library at the time this happened?
Huh?
Lee.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, you didn't know that.
I didn't know he was in the library. No.
Yeah, that's where he um fired his shot from.
Okay.
Was out of the library. I don't even remember what floor it was on or anything, but yeah, it was in the library.
Okay.
So yeah, he was not in the grassy knoll or whatever they talked about.
Right.
So, the book depository. So I've always said library. I guess that's maybe the same thing. But anyway, yeah. Moby, do you know? Oh gosh, I had my mic up on top of my head. Do you know which floor he was on? I don't know that I've even ever saw that. So anywhere.
They said okay. 6th, I think.
Oh, okay. So say yeah, he was way up there on the 6th floor and behind the motorcade, behind the car. Like I'm gonna assume it was like right after they passed, and he had the shot that he wanted or whatever. You know, that's just what I think.
Put it.
And like I said, that is the first time that I've ever been able to see so much detail about that. And it's oh me, it's just sad, especially with her sitting right there next to him. I mean,
yeah,
I can't even imagine. I don't even like my second ex husband, but I wouldn't want that to happen to him.
No.
Yeah. Oh
Right.
yeah, Moby, I know. Yeah, I wouldn't want that to happen to anybody. So, but was the grassy knoll not to the left of them? Right? It was to the left of the motorcade, I think. I hope I'm right. So, um, if that was to the left, like I think it was, then that dispels every bit of that because she said 75% of the people say those shots came from the grassy knoll. Yeah. So, but then, you know, Lee Harvey Oswald, who wasn't on the grassy knoll, was arrested and, eventually, um, I guess, he got shot, you know, within not much time. Oh my gosh. Oh Lord. That's horrible. I just,
Oh,
I would have thought that it would have been, all over her really. Um,
yeah.
yeah, you would think, with it being
Yeah,
as
that
bad
close.
as what we just saw. So, and then the other thing that we're gonna watch is now. I think this film is like over an hour long. So at the end of the live, I've got to go put all this stuff into my description, and I'll do that. And then, if y'all want to watch the whole thing in full, you can, because I had a different one, but I couldn't figure out how to share something that was sent to me from Rumble. I couldn't figure out how to share that screen. I don't think you can. I think it has to be something from YouTube. But anyway, so I got a different one. So that's what this next one is about. Like I said, and we'll have to stop and talk, because even though it's been out for, I think it says 10 years, they still may not like it, even though I am going to put it in the description. So I know how they can. I'd probably be the same way. Uh, so this is one by E2 Films, Moby. I didn't even realize that. Anyway, it's from 10 years ago. And what they're doing is they're talking to, it says the chief analyst, Douglas Horn, and he discovered this stuff, and then it was examined by the CIA's National Photographic Interpretation Center 2 days after the president was assassinated. And I'm sure they said, um, that, it was a lie. So, but anyway, here we go. Let's see what we can get into.
Well, I think everyone knows that the Zapruder film is the preeminent assassination record that we have today. There were several home movies taken that day, but the best one by far, in terms of magnification and field of view and quality, was the home movie made by Abraham Zapruder.
Okay, so that's just like the one we just watched, is what he's referring to.
Now, he was a dressmaker. He worked in the building across the street from the book depository. He didn't even bring his camera to work that day. His secretary sent him home. Go home and get your camera. He went home and got his camera. He filmed the motorcade coming down Elm Street and captured the assassination. For several decades after the assassination, everyone presumed, naturally, I think, that the Zapruder film was authentic and that it was the closest thing to ground truth that we had about the Kennedy assassination. Beginning in the late 1980s and on into the 1990s, different researchers began to have doubts about whether the Zapruder film was an unaltered, authentic film or whether it's an altered record of what happened.
I'm just curious as to how back then they could have altered that. If from the original one, Has
the Zapruder film been altered in some way? The key problems were, number one, was there a car stop? Many, many eyewitnesses, approximately 50 people in Dealey Plaza, insist that the president's limousine came to a complete stop during the assassination. A brief stop for perhaps 1.5 or 2 seconds, but that the car did come to a stop. We don't see anything like that on this film. And yet some of the most persuasive witnesses to the car stop were the people closest to the limousine, people standing on either side of it on Elm Street, and many of the motorcycle policemen who were either escorts for the limousine or escorts for cars immediately behind it. So that's the first problem with the Zapruder film, is why doesn't it show the car stop that over 50 witnesses recall? Another problem is that Zapruder and his secretary both recall that Zapruder started shooting the movie when the car was on Houston Street and filmed it turning onto Elm Street. That is not seen in the film today. Recently, some researchers have begun to study the image content in the frames of the film. One researcher in particular in California, Sidney Wilkinson, purchased a dupe negative, a duplicate 35 millimeter negative of the Zapruder film from the National Archives. She and her partners in Hollywood have created high-resolution digital scans of each frame of the Zapruder film. They believe they see irrefutable evidence of alteration of image content. Specifically, they believe they see blacking out of the back of the head in the Zapruder film.
Is that not crazy? That's crazy.
Which is significant because the back of the head is where all of the medical staff at Parkland Hospital in Dallas saw a wound on President Kennedy when he was treated on November 22nd. The medical staff at Parkland Hospital in Dallas, Texas, who attempted to save President Kennedy's life, only saw 2 wounds on his body. They saw an entrance wound in his throat directly below the Adam's apple, and they all saw a rather large, gaping, avulsed, blown out exit wound in the right rear of his head. In the right rear of his head, not the top of his head, not the side of his head. They saw a wound in the right rear of his head. That wound that they saw was devoid of bone and scalp. Brain tissue was exposed. The Zapruder film does not show such a wound. The new high-definition scans created in Hollywood from the duplicate negative from the archives show many frames where the back of the head is blacked out, rather crudely blacked out, as if someone had wanted to obscure the wound seen at Parkland Hospital. And yet we see other head wounds on the Zapruder film that no one saw at Parkland Hospital. We see the top of the head apparently damaged, the right side of the head apparently damaged in the Zapruder film, and yet no one at Parkland Hospital, and I mean no one, saw such damage on President Kennedy. And he was treated for 40 minutes. So these medical experts who were well-trained and who knew how to identify wounds and knew how to describe their location had plenty of time to observe the wounds on his body, and no one at Parkland saw the wounds on President Kennedy's head that are portrayed in the Zapruder film. So we have a car stop that's not shown in the Zapruder film. We have head wounds that no one saw at Parkland Hospital on the Zapruder film. And we do not have on the Zapruder film, we do not see the wound that they did see at Parkland Hospital. Instead, we see a blacked out portion back here. So there are many reasons today to focus on the Z film. And there's a lot of research going on right now, and it's, I'll just say it's ongoing. Stay tuned.
Did you know that Amazon has a $50 million fund that they have to pay out every month? And here's how you can get a cut.
Nope, we ain't watching.
The Zapruder film has had a very interesting journey. Abraham Zapruder shot his own movie on November 22nd. It was developed at the Kodak plant in Dallas, Texas. After it was developed, he took it to another lab. They ran off 3 copies on a contact printer. He took the 3 copies back to the Kodak lab. They were also developed at the same Kodak lab in Dallas. So on the day of the assassination, we had 4 versions of the Zapruder film. We had the camera original, and we had 3.
I'm not sure I believe that, because do you think they could have done that in that short amount of time? That's crazy.
Copies made in a contact printer. They were all slit to 8 millimeters that day. So Zapruder had a double 8 millimeter film. Double 8 film as inserted in the camera and as shot in the camera was 16 millimeters wide and consisted of opposing image strips going in opposite directions. We had an A side and a B side. After developing, the normal procedure at the developing plant was to slit the film or split the film straight down the middle and then splice those 2 sections together so that instead of having a 16 millimeter film 25 feet long, you would have an 8 millimeter film 50 feet long. And that's what was done. After the original and the 3 copies were developed, the day of the assassination, all of them were split to 8 millimeters. Zapruder took his original film home that night, showed it to his wife and his daughter. He then showed the original film the next morning to a representative from Life magazine, Mr. Stolley, and to the Secret Service in his office at the Daltex building.
Hey, Teresa.
On Saturday, November 23rd, Life magazine implemented the first of 2 sales contracts with Mr. Zapruder. The first contract on Saturday was for $50,000, and it allowed them to have worldwide print rights. Now, this was printing rights for still images only from his motion picture. Life magazine was to be allowed to borrow the original film for 1 week for the making of these high-quality still images. Then after 1 week, they were to give it back to Mr. Zapruder, and he in return was to give them one of the 3 copies. On Saturday afternoon, the original film that Mr. Zapruder had sold to Life was put on an airplane in Dallas and sent to Chicago by Life magazine. Mr. Stolley did not go with it. He put the film.
Oh, so Life magazine has had this for a long time then, haven't they, Moby? Yeah.
Film on an airplane. Until recently, everyone thought the story went like this, that Life magazine had the original film in Chicago all weekend, the weekend of the assassination, and that they were busy taking stills from that image for publication in their future magazines. We now believe that's not the case at all, and I'm prepared to talk about that in some detail. Something happened that weekend to cause Life magazine to want to repurchase the film in its entirety. So, and you got to understand, this was not to Life's financial benefit, this was to Mr. Zapruder's benefit. Life reapproached Mr. Zapruder on Sunday, November 24th, the day before President Kennedy's funeral. And they said, we'd like to renegotiate our sale contract with you. We would like to buy the original film and all the copies and maintain possession of them and have not only worldwide print rights, but worldwide motion picture rights. We want all the films and we want all the rights to the films, including motion picture rights. So of course, Mr. Zapruder said, sure, I'll do another contract with you. So the sale contract was rewritten on Monday, November 25th, the day of President Kennedy's funeral. And that contract, instead of for $50,000, the new sale price was $150,000. Spaced out over a period of 6 years, Mr. Zapruder was to get $25,000 a year. And Life was to get the original film and all the copies and the motion picture rights. Now, what's interesting is that after spending an extra $100,000 to obtain motion picture rights to the film, Life magazine in 12 years, never once did they exhibit the film as a motion picture or license it for others to exhibit it as a motion picture. So they paid extra money to do this and then never used it as a motion picture. In my opinion, the real reason that Life magazine repurchased the Zapruder film was to suppress that film as a motion picture.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. And, you know, I forgot that there never was there's never been a film or what'd he say, motion picture done about this.
We all know today that, yes, the film seems to contain evidence that President Kennedy was shot from the front because his body is propelled rather rapidly to the left and to the rear. I also believe the film was altered the weekend of the assassination.
If you're a web designer,
Seriously?
here are 4 Wix Studio features you gotta know.
In 1963, before the era of digital technology, before computer-generated imagery, there were limits to what one could do to alter a film. One could remove, let's say, frames of debris exiting the president's head and traveling toward the left rear. One might be able to remove a car stop, but there were things in 1963 that one could not do with the film. You can't change the motion of someone's body in the car. There was no CGI in those days. So I believe that the film was crudely altered the weekend of the assassination to black out the location of the true exit wound, to paint false wounds on the president's head that would appear to be consistent with a shot from behind, and that although these alterations were done, they weren't done very well. I don't think they would have stood up to the scrutiny of let's say, a television studio. If you licensed the Zapruder film in 1963 to someone who wanted to show it as a motion picture, you would have to loan them the film. They would have it in a telecine machine. They'd be studying it frame by frame. And I think that some of the alterations done, some of the crude alterations done to block out the true exit wound, probably would have been apparent to anyone borrowing and studying the film on a frame by frame basis. So I think that's why Life never exhibited.
Hey, Moby, when you find out about them ad blockers, let me know, okay? Because I need to know that information.
As a motion picture after paying for the right to do so. I also think that the motion of the body, the head snap, back and to the left, that we've all become so familiar with, is evidence of shots from the front. It's just evidence that the alterationists couldn't remove from the film. There's only so much you can do to alter a film in
You
1963.
did. You got me.
That's evidence of shots from the front that you couldn't remove. And because you couldn't remove that, Life chose to suppress the film. Now, we know that C.D. Jackson, the publisher of Life magazine, had a long career in and out of intelligence. He was in and out of intelligence with the U.S. government, then back into the private sector, back with the government, back with the private sector. He started his career in London in World War II, working for the OSS in propaganda, Allied propaganda. He also rejoined the government in the 50s and worked for President Eisenhower in a propaganda role. So I think Mr. Jackson's friends in government encouraged him and the magazine to repurchase the film, put it under wraps, release still frames from time to time as desired, but don't show that film as a motion picture. I don't think they wanted the crude alterations to the wound imagery to be detected, and I also think they were afraid that people might focus on the motion of the body back and to the left. So the film wasn't exhibited as a motion picture for 12 years. Only when a bootleg copy of the Zapruder film was aired on national television in 1975 by Robert Groden and ABC Television.
Hold on, I got to say something real fast. Oh, me. Okay, I just got a message. Thank you, Alice. Thank you. That's all I'm going to say.
Only then did Life magazine suddenly lose interest in the Zapruder film. That very same year, Life magazine sold the film and all of its film elements that it had back to the Zapruder family for $1. For $1, after paying $150,000 for the film. They sold it back to the family for $1 in 1975.
That's crazy.
After the bootleg copy of the film had become widely seen. Now, the Zapruder family placed the film in the physical custody of the National Archives in 1978 for what was called courtesy storage. They knew that the archives could store the film at a low temperature, 25 degrees Fahrenheit, and under good security conditions, and that was in their best interest, so they placed it in the archives for courtesy storage. In 1992, the U.S. Congress passed the JFK Records Act. That's the act which also created the Review Board. The Zapruder family was aware that the JFK Records Act was going to allow the government to declare certain items to be assassination records, and that the government might then take these records.
That was so wrong. Oh, that was so wrong. I understand he was the sitting president, but Lord, and I just wonder how much of what we're seeing now is true. The paperwork that we're seeing now.
Assume ownership and control of them, permanent control. So the Zapruder family, in approximately 1993, attempted to remove their film from courtesy storage in the archives. The archives said, "We're sorry, not so fast. The status of your film is uncertain. It may be declared an assassination record by the Review Board, and so we are not going to give it to you." So the negotiations proceeded from there. As it turns out, the ARRB did hold hearings on the Zapruder film, recognizing the seminal importance of the film. It was declared an assassination record. And effective in August of 1998, the U.S. government became the owner of the Zapruder film. In exchange for that, the Zapruder family was very fairly compensated, more than fairly compensated. The Congress voted to give them $16 million as just compensation for the taking of their film. So they made a windfall profit. And the what I call the extant film, the existing film, I don't call it the original because I don't think it's the original film. The extant film resides in the archives today under controlled conditions, 25 degrees Fahrenheit storage. And the archives has made a forensic copy, a 35 millimeter copy on an optical printer that researchers may access. And in fact, it's this forensic copy that Sidney Wilkinson in California has purchased.
So, do you not think that the government had, their own, or the Kennedys had their own, what do you call it, filmmaker that would have been there filming that as an official record, and they wouldn't have to call somebody else's film the official record? That didn't make sense to me either.
Ever wondered what your home looks like from
boy.
space? Enter your address and get a 360-degree satellite view of your home right.
The weekend of the assassination, we now know the film had a very different chain of custody and very different history than we once thought. I was the point man for the Zapruder film on the Assassination Records Review Board staff. I worked with film issues for 3 years straight, and I became aware in 1997 that the Zapruder film had actually been in the custody of the CIA over the weekend following the assassination, and not necessarily in the hands of Life magazine in Chicago, as we had been led to believe. In 1997, I conducted interviews of two gentlemen who worked at the CIA's NPIC. The NPIC was the National Photographic Interpretation Center in Washington, D.C. It was the CIA's #1 film lab. Most of what the lab did in those days was aerial photography from the U-2 spy plane or satellite photography, but they also did other types of photography, anything related to intelligence. The review board staff located in 1997 two persons who worked with the Zapruder film at NPIC the weekend of President Kennedy's assassination. And the names of these two men were Homer McMahon, the head of the color lab at NPIC, and his young assistant at the time, Ben Hunter. We conducted a total of 6 interviews, 3 interviews of each man. And this is what we discovered. About 2 days after the assassination, which would make it Sunday, November 24th, a Secret Service courier brought the Zapruder film to the NPIC in Washington. Now, this is late Sunday night. These men were sure it was a couple of days later, and they were sure it was before the funeral. The funeral is Monday, November 25th, so this had to be Sunday night. The Zapruder film was brought to NPIC Sunday night by a Secret Service agent named Bill Smith. He told these men that it was the original film.
Okay.
And that it
I saw
had been
your
developed
message, Sue.
in Rochester, New York, at a codenamed facility named Hawkeye Works. Now, Hawkeye Works was a sensitive code name used at the time by the CIA for the Kodak company's #1 research and development lab. So the Hawkeye Works lab, R&D lab, was located at the Kodak main industrial site in Rochester, New York. It was a civilian, Kodak-owned and operated research lab that dealt with all types of film. Some of the film that the lab dealt with was the Corona satellite film and the U-2 film used by the U-2 spy plane. So there's a problem here. When we have a Secret Service courier delivering the Zapruder film to the NPIC in Washington on Sunday night and telling them that it was the original film, that it had been developed at Hawkeye Works in Rochester, and then presenting them not with an 8mm film, but with a 16mm wide, apparently unslit, 8x8 film. Now, the job of the NPIC was something that makes perfect sense. Their job was to take the film delivered to them by the Secret Service and make blow-up images of particular frames, and to put the blow-up prints, mount them on briefing boards so that they could be presented to officials of the government, so they could be studied. It was a way to study the evidence in a motion picture film in more detail, to blow up many times the original size. Remember, the original frames are only 8mm wide. So to blow these up to 4x5-inch prints, mount the prints on briefing boards with some accompanying information, and then deliver your briefing boards to the customer. So Homer McMahon and his assistant, Ben Hunter, were working that night with an unslit 16 millimeter wide double-8 Zapruder film, which still had opposing images, opposing image strips, images going in opposite directions. It had an A side and a B side. The A side was a family movies taken by the Zapruder family. The B side is the assassination on Elm Street in Dallas. These images were going in opposite directions on the film. The film was 16 millimeters wide, as if it were a brand new unslit film. Homer McMahon remembers putting this film in his enlarger, his 10 by 20 by 40 enlarger, the world's best enlarger in existence, state-of-the-art equipment, and making internegatives of individual frames that were 40 times the original size, 40 times bigger than the 8 millimeter film frame. And then from those internegatives, he made color prints. He and his assistant made 3 sets of prints. They made 28 internegatives. From those 28 internegatives from the Zapruder film, they made 3 prints each. So the implication is that they were probably going to have 3 briefing boards made.
Holy cow.
They went home after they made the 3 sets of 28 prints.
That's something.
And they know that other people at NPIC actually pasted the prints onto the briefing boards and made the briefing boards. But we were able to interview these 2 men who did this work 2 days after the assassination with a Zapruder film from the wrong location and in the wrong format. Many years later, in 2009, as I was finishing work on my manuscript for my book, a researcher named Peter Janney contacted me. Now, Peter Janney is the author of a book, Mary's Mosaic, about President Kennedy and the final mistress, Mary Pinchot Meyer. But he took a diversion during the writing of his book to investigate the Zapruder film because he was curious about various Zapruder film issues. He called a man named Dino Brugioni, who used to be the chief information officer at NPIC. Dino Brugioni was the right-hand man of the director. He was the chief information officer. He was the man whose responsibility it was to assemble any and all briefing boards that were ever made for government officials for any reason. This would include YouTube photography, Corona satellite photography, whatnot. Peter Janney's father had worked for the CIA. Peter Janney's father had known Dino Brugioni back in the day, back in the 1950s and 60s. So Peter Janney took a chance and just called Dino in the cold and said, "I'm Peter Janney. I'm Fred Janney's son. Can I talk to you about some of your work when you were with the agency?" And they clicked. They hit it off. So what Peter Janney discovered during his extensive interviews of Dino Brugioni in 2009 was that Dino Brugioni saw the true original Zapruder film, the true 8 millimeter film, the one developed in Dallas the day of the assassination, the one that was slit down to 8 millimeters in width. Dino dealt with the original film one day before Homer McMahon was presented with a reconstructed and altered film. He was called in to work on the Zapruder film Saturday night, November 23rd. So this told us that Dino was involved with event number 1 with the film, and Homer McMahon and his assistant, Ben Hunter, who the review board interviewed in 1997, they were really involved with event number 2. So Dino, with event number 1, had the true original film.
I dare you to let me build you a completely free e-commerce store preloaded with 20 handpicked.
I was the duty officer that Saturday and Sunday. And I received the call, it was in the afternoon, from Mr. Lundahl to get a crew in, that the Secret Service was going to arrive sometime that evening with something that required some work at the center. So I called Bill Banfield, head of the lab, and I called Ralph Peirce, a photogrammetrist. Now, Bill Banfield's responsibility was not only the photo lab, but also he had the unit that would make the briefing boards from the photography. John McCone called Arthur Lundahl and told him the Secret Service needed some help and for us to aid them in any way that we could. About 10 o'clock, they arrived, 2 men. They identified themselves as being from the Secret Service. Only Bill Banfield, Ralph Pearce, and I discussed things with the 2 Secret Service men.
While you worked at NPIC, did you know a gentleman named Ben Hunter?
Yes.
Was he there that night with you?
No.
Are you sure about that?
Yes. Because Ben Hunter was a photogrammetrist in the photogrammetry, and I didn't need him. I mean, I wouldn't have called him in.
Did you know a Homer McMahon?
I knew him, yes, but not that night.
Okay.
When we got to the 3rd floor, the fellow opened the box, and he showed me. I recognized it immediately. It was 8mm roll of film. I took the film and I put a 6-power 2 magnifier on it, and I could see the print. It was fully developed
when you received it.
When we received it.
Okay. I have here a roll of 8mm movie film, which I'd like to show you and ask you if this is the type of product you received on Saturday, November 23rd, 1963.
Yes, I can see the individual frames in there, and I can see the sprockets. This is what we had.
Okay.
Okay. Now the problem was that we didn't have a projector to take 8mm. So Bill Banfield said, "I'll call Fuller de Albert." This was a store down in downtown Washington that had photographic supplies, a lot of Eastman Kodak photo supplies. And so he said, "Let me see what I can do." So he called the manager of the store, and the manager said, yes, he had an 8mm projector, and so that he would meet Bill at the store. So Bill goes down and comes back with the 8mm projector.
Can you estimate this many years later about what time he might have returned with the projector?
I would say around midnight.
Okay.
When Bill Banfield came back with the projector, we projected it on a screen. Not once, but several times. The first time caught us all by surprise, what we were seeing. And that was to see Kennedy's head, portions of his skull, fly into the air. That was a surprise to me. That was a surprise to Bill. That was a surprise to Ralph Pearce. And that was a surprise to the Secret Service men.
It was a surprise to the Secret Service men. Does that mean that they had not viewed the film yet?
Yes. I took that impression that was their first time that they saw it. So then they said, let's run it slower. So they ran it slower, and several times, so that we. Then I asked him. I said, "Now, what do you want of us?" He said, "Well, we want prints from this film." I said, "All right. Suppose you move up, and you indicate which frames you want, and we'll mark it." When we ran it through, we took a little piece of tape. Let's say that you tell me you want this frame. I will go, that's so precious that I'm not going to touch that one. But maybe 10 frames away, I will put a mark on but then I will know that I have to go back 10 frames.
I see.
See, so you don't want to damage
the one that you want to enlarge.
The one that you want to enlarge in any shape, form, or way.
Did anyone count frame numbers from the beginning of the film to the end?
Yes.
Who did that?
Ralph did it mostly.
I see. Were they concerned with number of seconds between shots, timing?
Yes, they wanted us. They wanted us to time it. And Ralph Pearce said he didn't like that idea. If that's a Bell and Howell camera, he knew immediately that it was spring wound, and he knew that as it was projected, it would slow down. In other words, the timing at the beginning of the film might not be what you have at the tail end of the film. And I told Ralph, I said, would you write that down? And later I included that in the note that I sent to Lundell. We had misgivings because we didn't know what the number of frames per second that he had set his camera on, or the tension that was on the windup.
I understand. Do you recall a conclusion by the Secret Service or by your NPIC team at the end of the night as to how many total shots have been fired? Do you recall anyone concluding what the total was, or did you?
No. We say strictly no. They didn't ask, and we didn't.
Okay.
We didn't offer anything like that.
Okay. Dino, do you think you had an original home movie or a copy?
No doubt in my mind, we had the original.
And why do you say that?
Because two reasons. One, the fact that the Secret Service was bringing it in, and the second thing is when I looked at it, it was not processed in a typical commercial fashion. It wasn't in a little box or anything like that. It was very well controlled all the time. That film was controlled by the Secret Service all the time it was there. Huh. I've never seen that film like the night that I looked at it.
Were the images sharp or a little bit fuzzy? Maybe?
No, they were sharp. It was obvious they were concerned about our handling of the film. When I told them, I said we were going to use white gloves, and I told them what to do and what not to do when they were working with the film, because I didn't want anything to disturb the film that they'd given me. I knew it was an important film. Now, it was never referred to as a Zapruder film or anything like that. It was just, to them, it was a film, but a precious film at that. The other thing that I was worried about is that sometimes when you run film through a projector, little chips of film will break off. So, but this was a brand new projector, so that we wouldn't have that kind of problem.
And in order to make 4x5-inch prints from selected individual frames, what would the steps be for a photographer to do that?
Well, they take it into the photo lab. Now you got to make a DN. You got to make a duplicate neg.
And when you say duplicate neg, do you mean as a motion picture or of individual frames?
No, individual frames.
Okay.
The National Photographic Interpretation had the finest enlargement capabilities in the world.
Would it have been normal procedure to make blow-ups from a copy film, or would you always have wanted to have the original? Was it important?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I would, the further you get away from the original, you lose, and especially in color, you lose it very, very fast. You get away from 2 or 3 from the original, and you've lost a good portion of the information that you need. The idea was to give the Secret Service the best quality we could give them on the imagery that we were looking at.
Do you recall any image bleed over?
No.
Between the sprocket holes?
No.
Okay. What 2 or 3 things did they focus on the most? What did they want to see?
Well,
as a product?
The first thing that they kept working with is the signpost where the
there's a freeway sign on Elm
Street. The freeway sign where the car and the occupants disappear, and then as they come out of the stand, that especially we moved it frame by frame so that we could see what was happening to the president. And then as we pulled it away, we could see that he was grabbing his throat. But I mean, they made us stop it the minute the car appeared
in the projector
in the projection room. And then we made prints after that.
Okay.
Then the other one, of course, was the actual shooting of the president. We made prints of that. But
and when you say that, do you mean the head explosion? The head wound?
The head wound, I think we made 2 just at the beginning of the blast, and then the one that I remember was that there was a chunk of body of his head above his head, and then there was a like a little mist or cloud around it.
The most startling thing I learned about the missing briefing boards made from the true original film is that Dino Brugione, in the film that he studied on November 23rd, saw a very different head explosion than we see today.
Okay. So what do y'all think so far? I could listen to this stuff all night long, but I don't want to. I know it's late. It's later if you're on the East Coast. So generally, I like to stay, within an hour. So obviously, this is something that we're going to have to continue. Oh gosh, let's see. So we're going to do a game night. We may maybe do this Monday or Tuesday. Finish this up so we can everybody can see it because it fascinates me. I know it does Moby, and I hope it does y'all. But anyway, let's just plan on doing that. So Sunday we'll have a game night. Probably Monday or Tuesday do the rest of this, and then start on the 9/11 stuff, and then we're going to circle back around and look at some other stuff with this too. But Moby had said, this is pointing out so many things that are controversial. Oh, yeah. I've got to watch that one, Moby. The one that you watched today that you sent me earlier. So I hope this is something of interest to everybody. I know, I forgot about that. Claire went live like at 9 o'clock or at the same time we went live. So I figure there's several people that are over there. Good, Sue. I will watch it. But anyway, I hope everybody enjoyed this live, and I'm so glad that Sue and I were able to come back as ourselves tonight.
Yeah.
That made me happy.
Exactly.
To be who we really are. Oh, yeah, to be who we are. And not be twinsies. Twinsies with different voices.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Y'all, it was all a matter of an email. That's all the problem was. Yeah, it was crazy.
It was so easy, yeah.
It was when I was like, oh, wait, I wonder if that has anything to do with it.
Yeah.
Which I knew it did. I mean, I knew it did. But, and you asked me about it earlier,
Yeah.
When I was sending you that stuff, you were like, doesn't this need to be, does you need my Gmail? I was like, oh no, this one will work fine. Oh, was I wrong? But anyway, yeah, we appreciate everybody coming tonight. If you haven't seen all the stuff that went on Twitter today, y'all make sure and go check it out, okay? Some good stuff over there.
Yes, thank you, Grace. Don't forget to hit the like button.
Oh, yeah, don't forget to hit the like button. Ding, ding, ding. Thank y'all. Y'all have a good night.
All.
Oh, I forgot to take myself down.